Okay, so with those ones sorted out, we can now move on to doing exactly the same thing on this one here. So again, just paint those out. Work our way down like so. And then we'll rotate the image as well, say 90 degrees, and do a bit of work on this side here. So you'll notice how that it's kind of pretty rare that you actually use the eraser brush. So don't really erase very much. And the reason I like to do that is because I do make a lot of mistakes, but like a big thing about this is getting that kind of variation in the texture. So those mistakes actually help to add a bit more kind of personality to the texture sometimes, especially with something like stone that tends to have, you know, quite an uneven surface. Like this can actually kind of help get that subtlety of kind of detail in there. So I wasn't really happy with some of those kind of wavy lines that we had going on, whereas I'm a lot happier with this now, but I also have got some nice variation in those areas, a lot more than I would do if I had just erased them all out. Okay, so we'll add another new layer, and what we're going to do is paint in all the shadows for these bits. So we've got our one shadow that's working okay on this side, and if the shadows coming in, the light's coming in from here, we know we're going to also need some shadow on this side as well. So on this side, the shadow would actually get a little bit of shadow here. So let's just blur that a little bit. Select darker colour, and we'll just take some of this out a little bit as well. This does mean that I'm going to need to paint out the shading on this side, because obviously shouldn't have shadow in there. Okay, so this is probably quite a good time to actually test the texture, so let's just save this out. So I've just called this TA stone tile, and we'll just reboot Maya, and we'll just have a look at how this is looking on our model. So the next thing we need to do, by the way, after this is to start adding in some things like little more kind of cracks along the stone, little extra white lines, and basically we'll take our brush size down another step. Okay, so we'll just go to our stone here, browse the file, okay, and we can start to see the effect that's having on our model there. One thing we want to do here actually is let's just put some kind of variation in size here. So this is something that I find works well. Just a bit of variation in size can really help. Another good thing to do is just to have some slight rotation on these as well. Like so. So you can see the more of these you have, you can also like pull some of these out a little bit. So you can see it just looks a bit more interesting. Okay, so let's just I'm kind of roughly happy with how that's looking so far. So let's jump back into Photoshop again and add some more details on this. So we'll add another new layer, and what we're going to do is again turn on our colours, browse to the kind of brightest colour that we have, and we're just going to pick a place along here where like a crack might appear. So I'm going to shrink my brush down again. We'll look here, paint a kind of rough kind of crack coming off this like so. So next thing to do is come back to this again. I'm going to paint another new layer, select a dark colour, maybe increase our size a little bit. We're going to look at where this little kind of indent might actually kind of be appearing. Okay, we're going to set the area here to darken, so it just darkens the area over the top. There's our lighter bit there, and just do again a little bit of a fade out on this as well. So I'm going to decrease the value of that slightly, and also I'd say that this should actually sit over the top of that as well. So let's just add in one more new layer, and I'm going to put this beneath. I'm just going to paint over that white line there. Reselect this again. I'm going to imply that that actually kind of goes down into that as well. Okay, let's just try saving that, and we'll jump back into Maya again and reload. And we can see the crack appearing there. Obviously what that does mean is, I've obviously saved that on there, is it does reduce your variation down, so you will need to rotate these around a bit. Like so. Okay, we'll jump back in again. So we've got one small one painted there. So make another new layer. What you can do is you don't have to make a new layer. Let's erase that little bit out there. You don't have to make a new layer. What you can do is find your original layer with that on and kind of paint them from there. So what we could do is say go back to paint mode here. There's our white line area there. So we could have a larger kind of crack coming off from here. Like so. So this is a kind of larger one, but maybe less of an actual indent. So let's even this up a little bit. and then take out some of the bits we don't like, colour pick on a lower down one, and add a little bit more kind of in here. And then use the eraser brush. Quite like doing this just to get that variation in the thickness of the line. And then we'll go to our brush tool and select the darker area, and then we know that's on this one here. And we want to fade that kind of in slightly as well, so we'll select a less kind of darker one there. Go to our razor tool, just erase kind of some of this out. And we missed a little bit off here. Okay, so let's try saving this out. But what I might do is just blur that one more time. I know it's going to blur over here as well, but what the hell. So we'll save that, Control S, come back over here and reload. And we can see now we've got the this crack appearing on here too. Okay, so one other thing I might do real quick here is let's just erase some of this line out here. And we'll just bring this round a little bit like that. We'll add another new layer in and just take out that shadow area as well. Okay, so back again to our white line layer, and what we'll do is we'll shrink my brush down a bit. We're going to have one more kind of coming off from, say, here as well. And maybe if we just arc this bit up a little bit, we'll have another coming off there like that. And maybe just as a final one, we'll have a little one kind of here too. Okay, so similar thing again, just this time we'll go straight to our shadow layer. And maybe what we'll do here is we'll have a kind of larger kind of fall off, but less dark, to imply that there is a dip here, but it's not as recessed as some of those other ones. And we can see how that looks. And maybe we'll do the same on this side too. And don't forget to obviously change layer if you're painting a bit of bright area again, because our dark layer here is obviously set to darken, so only dark colours are going to have an impact there. Okay, so I'm just going to select my dark layer here. I might just decrease that slightly, like so. So let's save this again. And I might actually do the same for the white line layer, so just decrease that a little bit. So we'll do File, Save As, and just reload that. Okay, so we're starting to get that variation in there now. In fact, I'd say that's not kind of far off from being usable. We still need to do that kind of extra layer of fine detail, but other than that, it's pretty much done. So let's go back to our image here. We'll add another new layer, and what we can do is just get some more kind of subtlety in our kind of tones here. So you can see here, maybe this is a kind of slightly kind of darker area. So we'll ignore our actual kind of color picker stuff for now, and just start getting some more kind of subtlety going on here. So maybe over here we've got a slightly more kind of recessed bit going on. You can see that extra subtlety in color. Again, just the same process I've explained to you already. It's good to kind of gradually kind of work your way down your brush size to get that kind of variation, to avoid that kind of stepping in the gradient. So I might take out some of that white line there as well. And let's kind of work into this bit a little bit here. We'll increase our brush size again, and then take this bit in as well. As I mentioned before, I'm a big fan of just getting in there and painting and not worrying about mistakes. You're bound to make some mistakes, but you can just paint over them. That tends to be a lot, and it tends to get you that nice subtle variation in colour tones. It can only be achieved that way. Okay, so let's try saving that out now. We'll jump back into Maya. There you go. Hopefully you can see the difference that has made, just that bit of variation. Obviously you don't want too much in there, because if this is going to be a material that tiles, you don't want to have a really kind of obvious bit in there. In fact, if anything, I'd say this kind of center colour here might be a bit too obvious. So what I might consider doing is actually kind of painting over this a little bit, like so, blurring that probably even more, and then just bringing down the opacity of that. Obviously this entirely depends on what you want to have on your model. One other little thing I like to do actually is if we just select a dark colour here, we'll add another new layer in, and what we're going to do is just paint some kind of darker areas kind of around here. So I'll show you what I mean, like this. we'll shrink that kind of right in and kind of carry that on. And there's no guarantee I'm going to use all of this stuff in the texture, but I do think it's good to just mess around. And again, we'll just blur this, reduce that down. Let's just save that. We'll jump back into Maya again. And reload. That's probably a bit too much, I would say. So what we can do is just jump back into Photoshop and reduce that layer down even more, just the opacity of it. Then come back into here and reload. And yeah, I'm starting to like that now. We can actually do the same thing with the highlights as well. In fact, we could set this to darken, and then again add another new layer. Pick a light kind of colour and just follow the highlights a little bit on here. Obviously, don't follow all of them. You don't want to get a completely even look to this. It's supposed to be stone. And then we'll blur this one as well. Might be a bit too much on that one. Something like that. And again, we'll bring the opacity right down. Save that out. Come back in and reload. And I think that'll do. So what you can do is obviously make a entire kind of path out of these. The key is making sure you have that kind of variation in the shape as well. So little bits of variation kind of really help. Okay, so that's kind of painting stone in a kind of World of Warcraft style. Hope that's useful for you. You can put in kind of requests in the comments below if there's any other kind of textures you'd like me to look at as well.